What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of KO Your Brand, the personal branding podcast for fame-ready entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Katrina Owens, top personal branding and public relations expert. And how y'all doing? I am, for all of those on YouTube, for the very first time since I was probably 8 years old, I am wearing a bucket hat. And honestly, it's a vibe. It is a for all bucket hat, by the way. I posted it on Instagram and people were freaking out about it. So if you want to go get your own, use code Katrina Owens 15 for 15% off. That for all. That is women's and men's golf wear that honestly is such a vibe. And this is probably the most expensive bucket hat or any hat that I own, but honestly, worth it. So, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm feeling really good. My childhood best friend, Jess, is coming to visit. So I'm recording this just before I'm going to go to the airport to pick her up. And then her and I are going to spend a couple days up in Whistler with Dexter, just, hanging out and relaxing and having some girl time. And I love Jess so much because she is someone who I can just truly be myself with. We can just lay in bed and not do anything and still have the time of our lives, which I just so appreciate because the next couple weeks for me, this is coming out probably 2 weeks after I record it, but the next couple weeks are a freaking whirlwind for me, you guys. Heading to Orlando to speak at the Business Besties event, which is about 100 people. After Orlando, Gabriel's coming with me, and we're actually going to Epcot and Epic Universe, which I guess is the new Universal Studios that is opening or just opened in Orlando. So we're going to check both those things out while we're down there. I'm so excited that he's coming with me. Gabriel never comes with me on work trips just because he owns his own business, does a couple things actually, and is really busy. But he wanted to take a little bit of a summer vacay. So that's what we're going to do. And then he will fly home. And from Orlando, I will fly to New York City to attend the Inner Cult Mastermind, which is by the Rich Girl Cult Conference. Brittany and John, two people that I just love and respect so much and really have to give so much kudos and gratitude for helping me scale my group coaching program specifically. It has been, really amazing to work with them on some of my marketing stuff. So the next couple weeks, crazy, but I am so privileged. I am so privileged. I am so lucky. I'm so blessed. That is what I keep saying to myself every day that I wake up and I'm like, wow, this is what I get to do. I get to wake up on a Monday morning and just record a couple podcast episodes. And that's the biggest thing on my to-do list. A year ago, my business was so different. I could not imagine being away from my computer for basically 2 weeks straight. And yeah, I will be working here and there throughout all of these different trips, but I don't have to be setting aside chunks of time to catch up on emails or put together client strategies or review client facing stuff that I used to find so draining. So these are all signs that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, which is super fun. So what I wanted to do today is an episode that I actually promised quite a while ago, which is PR for introverts. And I apologize if you're hearing this weird clicking noise in the background. Dexter is happily chewing his bone this morning, and I just do not want to interrupt that because if he's not chewing the bone, he's going to bark at me. So we just got to let him have his cake and eat it too. So today I want to talk about PR for introverts because one of the things that I hear a lot is, if I'm introverted, does that mean I can't use PR? And there's a lot of things I want to unpack when it comes to this, because I think we get a couple of things about PR as well as like being an introvert wrong. So what I want to start off with, just because I think language is really important, I think sometimes we have a tendency to like misuse certain words. So I want to dive into the difference between like being introverted and being shy. And like, let's start there and then we can work backwards. So I'm going to pull up a definition real quick. So give me a quick moment to pull up my good friend Google. Okay, had to sneak in a quick sip of coffee there too. Okay, so Google says, this one looks good. So shy versus introvert. Shyness involves fear of negative evaluation and shares some similarities to social anxiety, whereas introversion refers to a tendency toward becoming overstimulated and the need to be alone to gain energy. Okay, that is actually such a good definition. Yeah, so the opposite of shyness is being outgoing, while the opposite of introversion is extroversion. These concepts are similar but different. The outgoing person is not afraid of others and has a tendency to approach, be it at a party, when meeting someone new, or when making plans with friends. The extrovert appears similar, often making friends easily. However, the core feature of the extrovert is a need for stimulation and time spent with others. Okay, that is, let me give credit where credit's due. That is from verywellmind.com. They were like the number one on Google, my Google search. So that's some good SEO for them. So I love that definition so much, because that is really what I wanted to get at today, because I'm talking about PR for introverts, not PR for people that are shy. That's a whole other conversation, but language, like I said, is really important. And obviously, the advice that I give is going to be very specific today to being an introvert. And so, like that definition said, the core trait that I'm evaluating here of being introverted is this need where, when you are an extrovert, you receive your energy and your stimulation by being around other people. When you are an introvert, the opposite is true. And it's so funny, because I think this confusion around language, first of all, is what makes a lot of people mistake me for an extrovert. And I'm sure some of you are even listening to this and you're like, oh my God, Katrina, there's no freaking way that you are an introvert. And I like to say, like, I'm an extroverted introvert, or I think like the technical term is ambivert. Because honestly, you guys, yeah, can I go out there and network and meet new people? And are there situations like, I mean, told you all about how I'm heading to Orlando and then New York, and all of those experiences are going to be like really people fueled and social fueled. I am energized by that to an extent, but I definitely need like a recovery period. And so for me, when I'm evaluating like true extroverts, it's the people that can go from like social thing to social thing, and like they're like continuing to get fired up. I'm like a one party a day kind of girl, like maybe a one party a week kind of girl. But what I mean by that is I can really only do one social thing per day. And if it's like a really, really big social thing, I can only do like one really big social thing per week, or even like less than that. Because while I do like love the part of my life that gets to like meet new people, I'm super comfortable putting myself out there, I am definitely not shy, though I can feel shy sometimes. I'm not generally shy. I definitely need time to recover from like peopling. And that's the thing that we get wrong about PR. A lot of the time, one of the things people will say to me is, I'm actually quite introverted, so I don't know if public relations is right for me. And my answer is always, yes, it is. But there are different ways to kind of mediate that and make sure that you're not burning yourself out. You're not, you know, dampening your ability to like run your business because you're like so tired and so focused on PR. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. What PR really looks like for the introverts of the world. So let's get into it. Okay, and one quick reason why I am doing this podcast episode, just so we're totally clear, is the fact that I really believe that like public relations is important to anyone who wants to grow a personal brand. So to me, saying like I'm introverted or I'm shy, so I can't use PR, that's an excuse. And a bad one, by the way, because PR is really for everyone. I know I've said that before. I know I have things that have like pointed to that before. So I really want to show you that you can use PR too. It's probably just not what you think it will look like. So now getting into really like the tactical parts of it all. So one of the very first things that most introverted or shy people say is, I'm not sure that I want to do speaking gigs. And usually my question to that is, do you not want to do them because you like really don't want to do them and you don't think they're going to like benefit your business? Or do you not want to do them because they make you feel a certain way? Because here's the thing. If we are choosing not to do something, like if we don't want to speak on a stage because it makes us feel uncomfortable, that's not a good reason to not do it. And interestingly enough, I do work with quite a few clients who might start with me with no desire to like be on a stage or do that sort of thing. But as you build a personal brand, these opportunities will inevitably come to you. And it was so funny actually, this exact thing happened like last summer. One of my good friends, Tacy, she's also takes a lot of my programs. Tacy had always kind of said like, well, I don't know if I want to like be on a stage, but I definitely want to like be on a podcast. And she had shared some of her goals with me. And funnily enough, when she started like putting herself out there a little bit more, doing more like talking to the head stuff or talking to the head, talking head stuff on social media, she inevitably was asked to speak at an event. And she enjoyed herself and she got some great clients from that. So and that's the one thing that I always encourage. It's like as you start building your personal brand and putting yourself out there more and more, these opportunities are going to come to you, right? If you do exactly what I tell you to do, if you take my courses, if you take my advice, you are building a press ready personal brand. And what happens to press ready personal brands? Opportunities come to you. And do you really want to be turning down a speaking opportunity that someone brings to you just because you feel a bit uncomfortable doing it? Probably not. Because if you do, you are showing the universe, hey, I actually like am not interested in that type of abundance. And so maybe one day you decide that that is something you want to do, and then those opportunities don't really come your way anymore because you turn them down. And to me, you're not giving yourself a chance to really like have the full experience of being a personal brand. So here's the thing. When it comes to speaking gigs, because I agree, like speaking gigs take a lot of effort to prepare. They are certainly emotionally draining, mentally and emotionally draining. Well, I would even say physically draining. Like I anytime I'm speaking at an event, I know like that's the one thing I'm going to do that day and like we're not going to do anything else. But when we're speaking at an event, we are also typically networking at that event, socializing. So that's why, even if you're just speaking for 20 minutes, it feels like it was so much more energetic output than that. So, speaking opportunities, honestly, they are going to come to you if you're building a press ready personal brand. So, I'm just like, you better go for it. But here are some ways to kind of like mitigate the energetic drain that happens. My first recommendation is just do one a month. Like if you start to get in a rhythm where like you have this press ready personal brand and people are coming to you, you do not have to say yes to every single experience, right? I always say have your year of yes to like get the experience and to build up your portfolio of speaking, of press and all of that. But then you can get to a place where I am, for example, where I don't say yes to every single opportunity that comes my way. It has to be really in line with my current goals and where I feel I'm currently at in my business. It really has to serve me if I am going to dedicate my time and energy to it. So for me, I typically say like one speaking gig per month. And that feels really good when it comes to like preparation, because I've said this before, we underestimate how much time we actually need to be preparing for these things. So doing one per month allows us to like space things out a little bit more. Maybe you do one and then you can like revise and refine for like the next one. I mean, the way things are going for me right now, I'm literally doing one per month. And mine pretty much right now are all like travel opportunities. So I have to take that into account as well. I really have to take care of myself when I'm traveling, which I'm still kind of like learning how to do because it's hard. So if speaking is something that you're like feeling shy around, because remember, like being introverted and being shy are different, a great place where you can start to overcome the shyness around speaking is virtual summits. And I would say like virtual summits are really introvert friendly as well, because typically you're never speaking live unless you choose to participate in one of like the live components. So a great example of this, when this podcast episode comes out, let me do some quick math on this one. Yeah, so when this podcast episode comes out, I am actually participating in the Standout and Sellout Virtual Summit, which is hosted by my good friend Taylor Smith from the Power Table Live. So you can head to the show notes and jump inside the virtual summit if you're interested in learning more about that and seeing my talk all about building an international personal brand. Virtual summits are really great because you are submitting a pre-recorded talk most of the time. I'm pretty sure every single summit I've ever done, you submit the pre-recorded talk ahead of time. And so what that looks like is you get to decide when you record it. You'll have a deadline, but you can really make sure you're feeling comfy, cozy at home. You can really start to mentally prepare yourself and record the talk at a time when you feel your best, which doesn't always happen when it comes to like in-person speaking gigs, right? Like if someone invites you to speak at their event, you're kind of at the mercy of their timing. So that's why I like virtual summits so much. And they're still a great way to boost your credibility and really build your email list. I have pretty much gained a couple hundred, I want to say like probably around 150 new email subscribers from the, have I done two? Yeah, I think I did two summits so far this year, plus Standout and Sellout is my third. So this really is my year of focusing on growing my email list. And honestly, participating in summits has been a great way for me to actually meet and connect with event coordinators who also plan in-person events, which is super cool. So if speaking in person is something that's got you feeling a little bit nervous, finding the online summits where you can start to practice speaking out loud. I mean, this can even be like if you don't have a summit available to you right now, this could be like hosting your own online masterclass or webinar. And I mean, you don't even have to do those live, right? You could just pre-record those too, but like I said, I'm trying to give you examples on how you can start to like dip your toes into PR. But as you become a more confident personal brand, you are really going to need to feel confident to do some of these more uncomfortable things. Doesn't have to be all the time, but you are going to have to do them. So, the other thing that I've talked about before is podcasting. Guesting on podcasts is another really great way to overcome this kind of fear or shyness we have around speaking. And I have to be totally honest, like from an introvert slash extrovert perspective, going on podcasts can also be very draining. And that is the one thing that we forget. Sometimes we think like, oh, if I do something virtual, it's going to be far less of a drain than if I were to go in person. And I think that then leads to us like actually stacking too many Zoom calls, too many video things all in one day, which ends up being just as draining if we were to go to like a 1 hour networking event. So When it comes to podcasting, I also use the 1 per month rule. I only record 1 podcast guest episode per month. Obviously, I now have my own podcast where I record weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, to make sure I have enough episodes to come out. But when I'm guesting on podcasts, it's such a different experience. Coming on here and talking to you guys and recording my own podcast actually comes quite easily to me. Yeah, there are days when I'm not feeling it because maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm hormonal. But luckily enough, I've kind of found my rhythm with this. So I schedule it when I know I'm going to feel excited about coming on and sharing some insights with you guys. But unfortunately, when you are guesting on other people's podcasts, again, you're kind of at the mercy of their availability. I really do recommend, a lot of the time you have say, right? As business owners, the one thing that you need to remember is you have full control over your schedule, even if it feels like you don't. And if it feels like you don't, that's a problem that we're going to have to address in another episode. But one of the things that I used to do is I used to say, I don't have time. My schedule is entirely up to my clients, blah, 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 blah. And it's just not true, you guys. If that's the way that you're feeling and you're a business owner, you need to do something to shift that, because you're not going to be able to adequately scale your personal brand and business if you are feeling like you don't have time for the things that actually move the needle, like showing up on events or showing up on podcasts and at events like what we're talking about today. So that's just my aside. But yeah, podcasting, great way to really start to overcome the shyness, feel more confident speaking, and again, really great for exposure, brand awareness, brand authority. So if that's something that you've been thinking about starting with, such a great gateway to more speaking gigs, because if you can get really good and comfortable at talking to strangers on the internet, answering questions about your business and your expertise, that's going to make it much easier for you to do that on a stage, right? Okay. So we've covered speaking ops, online summits. The other thing is contributing to major publications. So this is actually something that it totally goes overlooked by a lot of people, because we're always like, no, I want to have a journalist reach out to me and write about me, and they're going to write the article about me around my quotes and my expertise. And while that's the dream, and that's such a great type of PR opportunity to secure, the flip side of that is there is a whole world of being able to contribute to different publications, blogs, um, even writing editorials for the local news. And those still really build your brand authority, not to mention being so great for SEO. And if you are someone who is both shy and introverted, the written part of PR is something I would really encourage you to focus on. So, how do you find these opportunities? Honestly, most major publications have them where you can become a contributor to the publication. It'll be called different things. For example, Forbes has what's called the Forbes Council. So, when you become a member of the Forbes Council, you basically apply. You fill out an application form, they approve you, and then now you get to write for Forbes. And this is why I tell you that traditional media doesn't do what it used to do, right? Because I'm literally telling you that most people, if they're interested enough, can apply to write for Forbes. So the same is true about getting published in Forbes. It's not that hard, which means that the quality of the media placement has certainly gone on the decline. And so when I talk about traditional media not generating brand awareness for you like it used to, this is exactly what I mean. In the past, if you were to be featured in Forbes magazine, your business would blow up. Everyone would know about you because that was a coveted spot to get. No more, no longer. If you get mentioned in an article on Forbes, for example, it is highly unlikely that random people are going to come across that article, because how many of you are actually typing in Forbes.com and looking through all of the articles that are posted there every single day. Oh, wait. Literally none of you. We don't do that because there are thousands of articles published on a website like that every single day. So it's up to you if you are securing features in major publications like that. It is up to you to understand how to use them. So publication features are really for building your brand authority. So that's why I say that contributing to publications is also a great way to build your brand authority, because it's honestly like one and the same. Your audience isn't really going to care if someone quotes you in the publication Mind Body Green or if you write from Mind Body Green. Mind Body Green is a health and wellness publication that actually also brings contributors on board. I mean, most do. One thing I'm actually starting to share more of in the Fame Ready Entrepreneur program, which is my 12-month group coaching container that also provides access to different opportunities. I'm sharing more and more opportunities for participants to contribute to different publications because it's a great way to build that as seen in banner. I mean, you're writing from Mind Body Green, you're seen in it, add it to the banner. And I'm explaining this to you in a way that maybe you feel like is cheapening the impact of PR, but it's just because PR is so different now. And this is one of my major qualms, right? This is one of my major qualms with how we talk about PR these days. Everyone loves to act like, oh, PR, it's going to like blow up your business and get in front of new audience and all of that. But that's simply just like not the case. PR is really like the brand authority building tool, unless you're using tactics like speaking gigs and podcasts to complement the media features. And I know I've done a podcast episode on this on the past where I talk about why speaking gigs, media features, and podcasts like all work together. And so that's what I'm trying to show you through this episode as well, because it is one of my core principles that like I cannot talk about enough. Okay. So, contributing to major publications is one of those great tools that introverts or people that are feeling shy can use because you're just writing. You probably never have to go face to face with anybody if that's the route that you're going down. But the reason why I front loaded this point with all of that information is because I don't want you to think that you can build a personal brand by just being a contributor alone. You need to be doing some of these more front facing talking. Experts are talking, okay? Experts can show themselves talking about the subject. And this is the part where I sometimes feel like I have to really hold the hands of the introverts in the room, because if you want to be taken seriously like an expert, if you want people to really trust you, the more you can show yourself talking on a subject as opposed to just writing about it, the stronger you convey yourself as an expert, especially now that AI is so popular. People are writing all sorts of things using ChatGPT, or should I say, not writing at all. So being super, super cautious of how much time you're spending on written content versus talking content. I would say it should be like a 75-25. 75, you talking on podcasts, on webinars, on your Instagram stories, on videos, 25% written content, blogs, emails, captions, contributing. Okay. So hopefully that sums it up for you. That really is like those are really, when it comes down to it, like online summits and contributing are two things I don't talk about a ton when I talk about more general approaches to PR. So I really hope that me kind of speaking a bit more about those two opportunities in particular allows you to understand that, PR doesn't just look like interviews, being on stage, talking into microphones. There is a component of it that allows you to preserve your energy and not have to be so front facing and quote unquote on all the time. Okay, so just as we round out the rest of this episode, I want to spend some time talking on how to conserve your energy and set boundaries as a personal brand, because I think this is a really big part of, if you are an ambivert like me, if you're an introvert, knowing how to set boundaries and knowing how to structure your day is really, really important. And this is something that I've personally gotten like really, really good at. So this is why I figured I'd spend a little bit of time talking about this part because yeah, I can tell you like what opportunities you can go out and get all day long. But when it comes to like the kind of behind the scenes stuff that honestly are just as important, this is where we sometimes like miss or drop the ball. So for me, I am a boundaried queen. I have really strong boundaries, and that is only because I spent a lot of time early on in my business feeling really drained. And that was the part that really started to feel bad about my business because I no longer felt like I could bring my 100% to the things that I want to do. This is a great example of me recording this podcast right now. I am bringing my 100% to this podcast. It is a Monday morning when I'm recording this. I typically spend some time on weekends, like getting me set up for the next week, like making sure I'm not starting Monday morning feeling like I have so much to do. This Monday morning was a little bit different in that case, just because, I mean, my girlfriend's flying in a couple hours, and then we're like going straight to Whistler, and I got to pack a bag and all of that. So I actually felt like I had a little bit more to do. But when it comes to recording podcast episodes or even social media content, I really protect my energy around it. I am not the girl who can just like whip out her phone and record content wherever she is. For me, it's always intentional. And if you are an introvert, I would really um, encourage you to get comfortable time blocking when you need to like create social media content, or if you're recording podcasts, doing that too, because honestly, that is what's really going to help you bring your 100% fullness and energy to the situations where you need to bring it. And then allows you to recharge on kind of like the external stuff. Like, I actually had this conversation with one of my clients who was feeling like she wanted to always like capture content when she was like out and about, like doing her like routine throughout her day. And she was getting frustrated with herself that she like actually wasn't remembering to capture content, felt awkward about it, and like just would end up being disappointed that she didn't capture anything. And so the support I gave her was that I know when I'm going to capture content and when I'm not. If you were to like really sleuth through my Instagram stories or like really analyze them, you would notice that I'm not someone who is just like posting a million things throughout the day. There are so many things I do in a week that I do not capture and I do not share content on. Like, and some of that stuff is like really cool shit, actually, but you would never know that I do it because I'm not capturing the content. And that's simply because I want to bring my 100% presence to the situations that I am in. And for me, that just means not being on my phone, not trying to like get the perfect angle and that sort of thing. And I think that's why I realized as a personal brand, I had to invest in having someone like Heather, who edits this podcast, but is also my marketing coordinator. I really had to understand that I need to bring someone along when there are moments that I want someone to capture, because that means I can go to an event, speak at it, or, host an event and not even have to worry about that part. Heather captures it all. She does such a beautiful job. And I'm like, yes, okay, I get to bring my 100% presence to the people that I'm interacting with, which is really beautiful. So that's what I would say for you. If you are feeling like there's always this sense of obligation around creating content and trying to like show up all the time, just take it easy. We don't have to make everything a content opportunity. I pretty much decide before I do anything, like, am I going to capture some content during this or am I not? And if I say no, then I'm like, okay, I am now like I've now relieved myself of that sense of obligation. Great example of this is when I was in Hawaii. There were some days when I was like, okay, I got to film a quick Instagram story series to promote the launch of my Fame Ready Entrepreneur program. I would record a couple things and then I would be done. And then there were actually like a couple full days while I was in Hawaii where I was like, I'm not posting anything. I didn't record anything. I didn't capture anything because I'm like, I am enjoying my vacation. And so just having these boundaries as you grow your personal brand is really, really important. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm just going to mention it again. If I am going to an event, that is likely the only event that I'm going to that week, and definitely the only event that I'm going to that day. A really great example of this actually is um, the other week, I had an in-person client strategy session. So for clients that are nearby to me, I always try and like meet in person and review their personal brand strategies with them in the flesh. And so I had one of those, and straight from that meeting, I went to go have lunch with an old friend of mine that was in town. And when I was out for lunch with him, he asked me if I wanted to go to this event with him later that evening. And I was basically like, no. I'm like, no, unfortunately, like that's just way too much for me because I bring so much to my clients. When I do like an in-person strategy review, I'm using a lot of energy and a lot of brain power to make sure that they get everything they need. And then going for lunch and catching up is so great too. But I just knew like by the end of the day, like I was going to have had quite enough social time. And that was definitely true. So that was me just respecting my boundaries. And I did feel this isn't to say that I'm always like so good at saying no, because there are times when I feel a bit guilty or I'm like, just go, spend some time with your friends, live a little. But I know that I'm actually going to be at that event, like just waiting for an appropriate time to go home. And that's the truth. I know that if I'm going to go to something and I'm just waiting for it to end, then it's not worth me going. And that's not to say it always turns out that way. Funnily enough, a lot of times when I go to events, I end up being one of the last people there because I'm chatting, I'm having fun. But most of the time, that's because I've made it like the one thing that I'm going to do that day. I have been known to Irish exit in the past too, though, which is fine, you know. And for those of you that are like, what's an Irish exit? That's like leaving without saying goodbye. Um, if it's a big enough event, like who cares? I'm not special enough that I think the event coordinator is going to be like, oh, Katrina left without saying goodbye. Like, as an event coordinator myself, I really like it doesn't bother me if someone like leaves without telling me, like, you're an adult, you can go. I still love you. Okay, so we covered today what it looks like to be introverted while still using PR. We talked about some different ways that if you are introverted and trying to manage your energy, what that can look like, and then just around the boundary conversation. The one last thing I just want to add to that kind of pertains around Zoom calls. And I talked about this earlier on in this episode, but I think it's important just to mention again because, especially if you're someone who is planning to guest on a lot of podcasts or record a lot of podcast episodes, don't ever schedule more than one in one day because I'm not convinced that most people can bring 100% to every single Zoom call if you're stacking them. I found that like my max for Zoom calls in one day is like 3. Like, please do not make me do more than 3 in one day. They are so draining. I start to like have this internal dread about them. So for me, I've had to get really strategic about how I use my time. I used to be someone, there were days when I would have like 7 calls in a day, and I used to glamorize that. And I would glamorize it because I would think that that made me seem so like booked and busy. But now I actually believe the opposite because now I'm at a place in my business where my one-on-one program is high ticket. So if you are a one-on-one client of mine, you make a pretty strong investment into working with me. And that's what gains you one-on-one access to me on a Zoom call. If you're in my Fame Ready Entrepreneur program, we do a group coaching call every single week, which allows you to get some FaceTime with me. All of those calls are so great. We get to answer many questions, and I really get to provide like custom feedback and advice to the people that attend. So I really love doing those as well. But the one thing that I have actually started to axe is discovery calls. You'll even notice that I used to talk about discovery calls a lot towards the beginning of this podcast season, but now I don't talk about them as much because I only do discovery calls with people that I believe are 150% serious on making a minimum investment of $5,000 into their personal brand. And it's uncomfortable if someone books a discovery call and then checks that they're not ready to make that level of investment. I cancel the call and I send an email with some other options for them, which is my group program. Or if I have availability, I will also offer just a paid one-on-one session and I will send those links instead. And I have gotten questions before where someone's like, hey, could I do a discovery call anyways? And my answer just always has to be no. And it's so not personal. And I had to like get over this fear of making other people feel bad. But for me, I started to feel really resentful if I was spending all of my time on all of these Zoom calls with people that I thought were interested in working with me on one-on-one, but their motives were different. Because my time is really valuable. I don't do a ton of like connection calls anymore. I just really try to not jam pack my schedule with Zoom calls. The people that get priority are my one-on-one clients. And I always want to make sure I'm bringing all of my energy to my calls with them, as well as my weekly group coaching call inside the Fame Ready Entrepreneur program. So if you are feeling really drained by Zoom calls as well, I highly recommend starting to put some boundaries around when and where you do a call. The one thing that I also get a lot is like invitations to different networking events that are on Zoom. I'm going to be totally honest. Most of those don't ever transpire in like actual leads for my business because I think everyone goes into them feeling a bit more transactional. Sure, have I met some great people through those calls? Yep, for sure. But I am at a point now where I have to evaluate the ROI of every single thing I do in my calendar. And the Katrina from a year ago, or 6 months ago, or even 2 months ago, who used to spend more time on Zoom, more time talking to people, all of that, she is not the same as the Katrina that I am now. This Katrina has so much information about her on the internet, on this podcast, where I don't feel as though I need to be jumping on Zoom calls to justify why you should be spending like $1,600 on signing yourself up for my group program. Sorry, I spend $1,600 on like a hotel room. Okay. So that's one thing to just like really keep in mind is as you grow your business, if you are someone who is introverted, what are some ways you can put other boundaries in your business so you're bringing your 100% energy to the PR opportunities that are actually going to move the needle in your business? So with that, this ambivert is feeling like she needs to go take some time to recharge. So I will leave you with all of that today. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you rate and review this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please watch and subscribe on YouTube so you can see my cute bucket hat. I mean, I'm really bringing the outfits these days. So always a great watch, honestly. Please follow me on Instagram at Katrina Owens PR. You can follow the podcast at KO Your Brand. And I'll see you next week. Toodles.